Raghuram ji.
Namaste. Brahmana waiting.
Raghuram ji, you can start. It will go live in 2 minutes. You can start.
Okay. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. One of the very important aspects of this Mandukya Upanishad is Mandukya Upanishad did not leave anything behind. It covers everything. There is nothing like this is real, this is unreal. There is nothing like this is existing, but this does not exist. All this kind of discrimination is not there in Mandukya. That's why it is supposed to be a very important Upanishad, because it covers everything which is related to the human experience. And this human experience has 3 different ways that we have the experience. And all those experiences are covered in these Upanishads. And these experiences that we have is the experience of a vastu, the object. And second thing is guna, that means its property or the nature. And the third is the karma. That means what is the activity or the kriya aspect of it. 3 aspects that's going on. So everything is covered in that. In fact, when you look at the manifested world, the importance of manifested world is only these 3 different aspects of it. Let me give you once again. That is, one is the vastu, the object, and second thing is guna, its nature or its property. And third is the idea of kriya or the karma aspect of it. So these 3 things are covered in this particular Upanishad, whatever that is there in our human experience. And from this human experience itself, we derive who is this I? The basic question of who am I? Because basically that if we identify any of these things, then it becomes only a fractured identification. I am so and so, but I am also doing something. And these are my properties. So like that, this I has got various components which are there, fractured components, the moment that we try to say. The moment you put it in the word that is there, the word itself is something which is limiting. And when the limiting is there, then only that we are able to perceive that aspect, convey the aspect to the others, or at least we recognize that aspect. Like, for example, moving, non-moving. Against non-moving and moving is something which is there. We are moving. The idea, we are moving because basically we have separated ourselves from another thing which is non-moving. So that means by the time we say moving, that means I have separated into 2. The second thing is, I said white chalk, we wrote down on the blackboard. The moment I say white chalk, that means basically that I have discriminated. There is blackboard and the white chalk. So the moment that I put it in the form of words, word is the thing I give an expression to it. The moment I give an expression to it, expression already divides the object into 2. So this is, but we understand that very clearly. What do you mean by that? Like, for example, I'm sitting in the train and seeing off somebody, and suddenly I notice that the train is moving. I said, "Oh, train is moving, so let me get down." Then that person says, "No, sir, our train is not moving. The other train is moving. You look into the other side, the platform side. We are still here only." That means I said the moving against something which is non-moving. And the moment that you turn towards this, you see that it's like this. So therefore, that there is always something which is non-moving or against which is moving. Earth is going around the sun. Basically, the sun is there, which is non-moving, around which Earth is moving. So they say, the moment that I say that any object, any activity, it's a relative term. So the object will give any name that we give. This is what is Abhidhana. They are given expression for that. Dana is the given expression. Without expression, I can't communicate. So therefore, the communication purposes I given expression. The expression is something which is already defined into two different aspects of it. So when you say that it is Dvaita, that means two objects are there. One object is not moving, other object is moving. So therefore, these two things that is there. But actually, it's not only two, but then the third, the character is also given. So like that, all these things are the part of expression. But then what he says is that these expressions of different things, they come from the same source. What is that source? We call it as consciousness or Brahman or Atman. Whatever the name that you give it, it doesn't matter. But it is one source from which everything is coming. There are no question of two sources that are there. Now, therefore, that they try to explain in various other places that from the source that many things have come. Like the same earth that is there, when the rain comes, many plants will come. Yatha keshalomani, that means from the head, the hair come up, like that variety has come up. These are only analogies. These are only a example that is given just way it has come. Like that in Kathopanishad also says that like the way crops come up. The crops, they are different things that are there. So it's an expression of many have come. But then all these things come from the same source called the earth, from which the crops come, same head from which the Romani, that means the hair come. So like that, some same source, everything comes up. Go back to the source. So that's how you say, go back from the leaves to the branches, to the stem, to the roots, and from the roots go to the earth. So therefore, the whole journey is to see that going inwards, going downwards, or going upwards, actually, the idea is to see that one, you become with the consciousness itself. This is how basically from the classical time it was understood. But let me give today's understanding, or the way that I understand it very briefly. Consciousness from which everything has come. There are no two separate things. How everything has come from the same consciousness. Now you see, science also says that, water, solids, liquid, gases, they are not separate, they are one and the same thing. Different states that they exist in different ways. Not only that, matter and the energy, they are not two separate things, they exist in the one. That's what Einstein's philosophy, theory of relativity. Now the time and space is also the same thing that is there, coming from the same. Like that science is trying to also come to the idea that one source is behind everything that has happened. And Indian philosophy said one more thing, that is not only that it comes from the source, everything that comes from the source, there is nothing else other than the source. There is nothing other than the source. So that means where is Brahman? Brahman is everywhere. Brahman itself has become. And only the example that we can think of is that space is everywhere. The space cannot be separated into this space or that space. An object is there in the space, but the moment that you put that object there, the space is not displaced, it is replaced. When I put the thing in object, that means to say it does not go outside the room. That there is a space is created, it's not like that. Space itself becomes that object. The same way that Brahman itself has become an object. Now, how do we understand this concept of Brahman itself becomes an object? A very simple idea which convinces me, which I could understand, is that it has a freedom to become an object. It has a freedom to become many. Ekam has the capacity to become many for the sake of transaction. And that's what Taittiriya Upanishad gives us, that Annavan Annado Bhavati, hunger and food, same Brahman that is there, same supreme sense of satisfaction. That is where basically there is no movement there. And that became two, so that movement is created, movement between hunger and food. So that's a simple analogy that it gives. Many things have happened from the same source. Consciousness is one. It is a freedom to become many. And that freedom actually becomes only to the consciousness. Any amount of freedom that we see anywhere in whatever form, it all belongs to consciousness itself. That becomes the become many. It is a possibility to become many. And the freedom is there, belong to consciousness. That's why just a simple example that we have is somebody is unconscious, does not have a freedom. But the moment he becomes conscious, he has a freedom to move to hand, move his hand, hold your hand, open his eyes. All this freedom is there because that he is conscious. When you say open the eyes, he doesn't open it. He's unconscious, we decide. So that means consciousness is there, which gives the freedom. Not only freedom, it also has the feeling. That means to say the experience also is there. Any experience belongs to consciousness, nothing else. That we saw that. Like, pleasure and pain, the consciousness is there. You have that. Moment consciousness is knocked out, then you don't feel the pain. You don't feel the pain, you don't even feel the pleasure also. Both these things are not there. So therefore, that feeling and the freedom belongs to consciousness. So that's how this creation is same consciousness becoming many, having different kind of feeling, different kind of material properties and all that. That is way become. It has a capacity to become. Now, when you are there, that means you are somebody behind all these things, and you search for yourself from this experience that you have. So our own experience that you find out who is this I, because we always refer to this I all the time. So search for this I. Who are you referring to? And that I that we refer to, based on our own experience, when you say, divide your experience in such a way that you can understand, categorize of experiences, so that from this you can search for this I. So, but when we say that we categorize and we understand, we can only talk in terms of words. Words are what is given. That's why abhidhana. But dheya is that what is behind it. The moment I say some object, that means my object is the word, but dheya is to identify that object. When I say water, water is a word. But then you understand immediately what is meant by, when I say water, the substance water. So dheya is that, dana is what I given. Now what happens, this whole creation is nothing but abhidhana, abhidheya. These two things are there. As I said, the moment that I put a word to it, it immediately it separates it out. It differentiates. The moment I say white letters, that means behind the blackboard. So therefore, the black and white division has come. The word divides. So therefore, is there a way that I can express undivided principle of everything in the form of one word? And that's what Upanishad says, that one word that represents undivided consciousness and manifestation, everything, even division also in the way, unmanifest to manifest, even this division takes away, is the word called as Om. And this Om has been used many places in the Upanishad. And this is also called as Pranava. So therefore, this Pranava, here also he says, uses that. But then for the sake of understanding that, we need to divide that. So this division is for the sake of understanding.
Do 3 packet.
Pravibhajyamanam, that's what he says, that Shankaracharya says.
ना 2 पैकेट ले आई कर 3 पैकेट मत लाई कर.
So, Prabhibhajyamanam, that means to say, one thing which can be divided into many, but at the same time, you can use it together as one. That's a very beautiful thing. He says, is this Omkara. That's why he says that Om ityeta didagam sarvam yetad Brahma, ayamatma Brahma, soyamatma, chatushpat. That's what is the first sutra. Chatushpat. How can you divide into four? Is there anything which can be divided into? Nothing. Only thing is that we can divide Om into this four. Why Om he has selected? Because any word that you give to indicate any particular thing, whether it is Vastu or whether it is Karma or whether it is Guna, everything is nothing but in terms of the sound that you give, because that's the only source through which that communicate. And so you communicate with the help of this sound, and all the sounds that you use, any language, anywhere in this world, any form of expression that you give in the form of understanding, and it comes from the simple idea called as from the mouth that you talk. Your walk is the way that you communicate. So therefore, walk is the way that you communicate. Walk is the words that you produce anywhere in the world, anybody. And the beginning of the walk is ah. Below ah that you cannot communicate, ah is the beginning. Before that, you have nothing. And then the last word, all the other letters are articulations beyond ah or within ah. And then the last communication that you can possibly do it is makara. Because I is the mouth fully open, ma is mouth fully closed. So everything is there between ah and um. Bridge this between middle word called as middle sound called as oo. This becomes o. So that means say by saying om, I'm enveloping everything that is there in the manifest world. Whatever that I can communicate, whatever that I can pass on. And when I say that you understand that, the common people understand everything, means for communication, abhidhana, whatever that we are given, all that abhidhana put together is Om. And not only that, he says Chatushpatitarkam. This is where very important is that it is not just only manifest, unmanifest is also included. And the only way that unmanifest you can include is by silence. So before also is the silence and after is also silence. But then what we are indicating is trying to go to that silence or the origin of this creation. So that's why it is called as Aum, followed by that silence, Chatushpath. So therefore, Chatushpath, he says that. Now what we know, understand is that Om seem to be three. Aum, then what is this fourth he is talking about? Because everything that is there is within this Aum. Any name, anything that you give, any rupa, nama rupa, everything is within this Om. And that much I can understand it. Science can understand it. But then he says something which is beyond this Om. It's not just only the sound, but sound represents all the other experiences that we have. I can communicate my experience to you. It is only through the sound. So sound includes all the experience of all the senses. Everything is there within the sound. But beyond that, silence. Silence we say because we are dealing with the word. But otherwise, that silence means the silence of the touch, silence of the smell, silence of everything. And that's what is basically the idea of the Chatushpaditanyam Omkar. That fourth pada is. Now, this division of three or division of four that he has given is the way that we try to understand or represent a particular thing so that we understand whatever that is their creation. Because ultimately it is my experience. And from there, I'm going to derive this I. Who is this experiencer? I. And so therefore, essentially what happens is this, when you divide these three into Avum and then fourth is Makara. Actually, that's why in Nirukta Shastra, they don't divide this Aum. They say Om. And here also he says Om Ityetagum Sarvam. And only in yoga we divide that Aum. But here, for explaining this particular philosophy, he divides that. Akara is the first syllable that we use. There are some reasons why he calls it as Akara, as the first syllable, connected with the Jagrita Sthana, that means wakeful state. So that's how in the second sutra, immediately he comes to this idea, Jagrita Sthana, Vaishish Prajnaha. See, the prajna that is there is about the outside. In fact, Shankara gives the definition for prajna, Vaishish Prajna. Bahihi, that means Swatma Vyatirikatve Vishayatva. Atma Vyatirikatve Vishayatvat, that's what is Bahish Prajna. That means what is not Atma, that's what is me, the perceiver. Outside the perceiver, whatever that is there is supposed to be Bahish Prajna. Anything that you see is supposed to be Bahish Prajna. Anything that you hear, anything that your senses will give you, this is what is Bahish Prajna. It's not you. So that means to say Atma is not something that you see, you hear, you touch. No, it's all outside about the world. That he says Bahish Prajna. Bahish Prajna means not me. That it's not me. Because basically I'm the experiencer. I'm seeing, I'm hearing. This I is always we put behind it. Like the way that cameraman is behind the camera, he's not in front of the camera. All the other things are there in front of the camera. So that's how basically this I is supposed to be something which is not behind all these things, and external experience is there. Bahish Prajna. So therefore it is supposed to be Bahish Prajna. The moment that we say Bahish Prajna, immediately what are the features that are there in the Bahish Prajna? One is called as the prajna, that is knowledge, that means you know about, are the things that are supposed to be sapta angaha, that means 7 different angas through which that experience. And sapta angaha, and then ekona vimshati mukha. Angas are 7, and then ekona vimshati mukha. That is 19 different mouths. Mukha is the mouth, are the openings through which that you get. So this is the first thing, the Vaishvanara experience. Now, here it is Vaishvanaraha, he calls it as Vaishvanaraha is somebody experiencing. I am the experiencing, or the Brahman is experiencing. Brahman experience, and it is my experience. Now, Saptanga is this Panchabhutas that are there, which are supposed to be also Anga. And then another thing is that this Ekona Vimshati Mukha, 19 mouths, which is very important. That means to say, you are 5 Sampajayat Jnanendriyas, Pancha Karmendriyas. These Karmendriyas are there. And then there are 5, the eyes and ears, etc., etc., the hands and legs and all those things that are there. And then the third is that we have this Pancha Prana, the experience of Prana, Pana, Vyana, Udana, Samana. These are the 5, that is 15. All these things together with these 4 different Antakaranas. That means Manasu, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankara. All these things are supposed to be our 19 mouths through which that your input is there. Input is there, you enjoy the world through all these things which are coming into you. So this is what is Sthula Bhuku. Sthula means all these experiences which happens in any of these 19 senses, 19 mouths, are supposed to be gross world. It's only the gross world that you experience. There is nothing like subtle about it. It's all about the gross. Sthula Bhuku. And then Bhuku is something which is very important. Bhuku means that what is supposed to be nourishing, what you experience. Often many people call it as gross experiences. But I would add one more aspect of it, gross, not only experience, but is also nourishing, so that we will derive what is meant by nourishing later on. It is not just only experience. I hear a sound, Immediately, because my mind is there involved in that, my antakarana is involved in that, immediately I see that whether it is useful or not useful. I separate it out, and what is useful, I take it. What is useless, I throw it out. And this happens throughout the body. Like, for example, I said, you take the food, whatever that is useful, that it goes to the right track. Whatever that is useless is eliminated outside, and then it throws into the garbage. Same thing happens in the world outside, that you eat some food and you try to take food, that is coconut you buy, and then you take whatever that is useful inside, the rest of it you throw it out. You take what is useful, what is for that only this gross world is provided. Now that gross world has provided with all this something which is useless. It may be useless for you, but for the world it is there. It is experienced there, it is there outside. Like for example, coconut is there, the whole shell, everything is there to protect the water inside. It has its own purpose. For you, it's a different purpose. For you, it is not useful. For you, only the water is useful. But for that water coconut, that it requires the whole coconut. Like that, the nature has the things which are God has provided in the nature, as the consciousness become everything because of some utility. Prayojakattvena. It is because of utility, something is created so that it is there doing its purpose, but it may not be good for you. You may not need it. It is up to you to see that whatever that is useful, you take it. Sthula bhugo. Gross, you take it. Gross, it is basically that it is Vaishvanaraha. Vaishvanaraha is, it is, imagine a universal man. The whole universe is controlled by him. And the man has all these senses. Like, for example, you have the senses, you have the body. Man has that. So your experience are nothing but the experience of that Vaishvanaraha. That means you are also, the Jivatma is nothing but that Paramatma, Vaishvanara, who is there, whose experience is what is that experiencing through you. It says that very beautifully said that Brahman experiences the world outside through your senses, through your mouth, through your experience. So your experience is nothing but nothing different from the Brahman experience. In fact, this is extended in the way that even the thought that are there, there is a universal space in which it is there. And you use that thought and leave it in the universal space that is there. The thoughts are there. So like that, all these things that are there, the Vaishvanaraha, and that is what experience that you have, Sthula Bhuku, gross world that you experience. Now, another important point about this gross world experience is that because it belongs to Vaishvanara, Vaishvanara in me, Vaishvanara in you, it's the same thing. That means to say, if I say that I see it, you also can see it. If I feel it is supposed to be tasty, you should also feel that it is supposed to be tasty. I hear a sound, you hear a sound. I see a picture, you see a picture. So it is Vaishvanara. Like I see the rainbow, you also see the rainbow. I see the stick stuck in the water, bent at the joint, you also see that. Why we see it is a totally different knowledge, but we see it. That is something that you cannot deny it. That's why it is supposed to be Vaishvanaraha, that means common man's experience. Now, anything that is there that experiences common man's experience, because everybody has the same kind of senses. Only thing is that somebody might have very sharp senses, somebody's senses may not be that sharp. Therefore, today we do so many things to see that how you enhance your capacity to sense perception. Like, for example, the glasses help you to see that something which is otherwise you will not see it. They help the senses that are there. It's nothing extra sense, the same sense, but made it to see that it can perceive. Similarly, ears. You can hear the sound for some distance, but then beyond that you can't hear. That's why we have telephone facility, cell phone facility, to see that you hear. But then what the transaction that happens is basically the gross world. That means I can hear, you can also hear. It belongs to the gross world. Nothing spiritual about it, nothing deeper about it. It's all about the world outside, and it's not about you. Basically, it's all about the gross world That's why it is called as Bahish Prajnaha. Anything that we do is about the Bahish Prajna. Not only about these five sensory organs, touch and this, that, and all that. We need to understand very clearly that, because many times people say that, you can, I can feel the prana, I can feel the pressure of prana. Prana is there flowing. Forget about it. Everybody should be able to feel it. It doesn't belong to the gross world. If it is there in the gross world, then the machine should catch it. Machine should be able to feel that, but it doesn't happen. That doesn't belong. Similarly, people say all kinds of things that I see the aura, golden aura around your head. But nobody has reported me, nobody has seen, but only I see, there's a extra point that they get, you are spiritual, all right, no doubt, but I'm also spiritual, that's why I could see it. If but people don't see it because that they are not spiritual. All this is basically the way that we should avoid all these things. Unfortunately, what happened is that today, a lot of spiritual knowledge goes into the waste of these kind of things. People see all this kind of aura, chakras, this, that. I keep telling that please don't go by these auras and chakras and all those things. Don't go by that. But people take it anyway, they're fancy. But anything that you could see, I could see, anything that we could see, somebody else could see it. It is gross world. So we always have to have that gross world is something which is basically the available for is. And not only that, it should be nourishing. The food that we can see that how nourishing is there. In fact, so much talked about the food, nourishing, nourishing, nourishing. And actually that the food is not just the food, type of food that eat, the value of food. There are so many aspects that are there in the food, but people talk about only I see that many times yoga magazines that you see, full of all those things, vegetarian food, this food, that food, how much calories that it contains, what kind of food that you take. Somebody says you take the soaked ones, somebody says cooked ones, somebody says no cooked ones. My God, how many varieties of ways people spend their time in that. Gross world that is there. And what is suitable for you, what is nourishing for you, take it. Don't give all these kind of explanations behind it. The whole magazine is full of only about the food. Vegan, this, that, and all that. And God has provided milk for people to eat, drink, and it's naturally given the milk. But then we take the milk. What is wrong about it? But then we get such a big issue about that. Another thing is vegetarian food. Yeah, I know that we are basically looking at this consciousness, is a basic principle. A respect for the consciousness is embedded in the idea of vegetarian food. People say that there is killing, there is violence, it is there. It's not a question of violence. In fact, people ask this question, even the plant has life, and then you kill the life in the name of plant. In fact, that's why we need to understand this concept of when the question of nourishing comes, there are four ways nourishing is taking place. It's not only for us, it's whole creation. There is nourishing that is taking place, which is the form of four ways. This is what Bhagavad Gita Krishna says. Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Dehamashritah Pranapana Samayuktaha Pachami Anyam Chaturvidham. There he uses the idea that your inhalation, exhalation, or your everything goes on very smoothly, harmoniously, one complementary to the other, pranapana samam krutva. For that case, that you take it. But then four ways that the taking takes place. In fact, when he says four way, chaturvidham, what do you mean by that? One way that we take food is by punching and taking the food into the stomach. Other way that food is there in the form of the just by touch, and then it absorbs the food. In fact, we also do that, human being, that lehyam. That's what is the way. That means by absorbing, we do that. But there are so many species that they do by absorbing, by attaching something, and then they feed on that. The plants feed on that, lehyam. Chusyam, by actually sucking. Mosquito also sucks. So that's how they survive. Mosquito does not bite you. I mean, if the day mosquito bites you, that you're gone. It sucks you. So that's how the stewardship is the way. And there also that it is not mosquito which is drinking, but it is the Vaishvanara who is drinking. Have a say respect for the mosquito. So lehyam, chusyam, grahyam. So these are the four different ways that one takes it. So therefore that means to say it covers the whole species. But species in such a way that it is for the sake of your nourishment. The moment it is not nourishing, then don't go for that. Now, when they say the consciousness becomes itself matter. And it says that only the life sustains life. And that's what Taittiriya Upanishad gives us, beautifully saying that the life is the one which is there, enters into the annam. So therefore, that annam is the one where it sustains. Annam is the food. The food is the way that it sustains. Now, when you look at it, the food is the food for the food. That's a very simple concept of circle. The rotation of food is that, like for example, the plants are the food for us. We take that. There's so many bacteria, bacilli that's there within us. We are food for them. They eat ours. And then they go out and then they become the plant. Again, the cycle continues. So this way, the cycle is continuing. So therefore, life can only sustain life. Nothing else can sustain life. So this cycle is there, in which form of life that you take, it depends upon you. The simplest form of life, that least amount of consciousness manifestation that is there, is in the case of plants. Plants have the consciousness life, that's why they grow. But then it's a very limited amount of consciousness there. The manifested consciousness, plant only knows to grow, nothing else beyond that. Now, so we go to the plant. The next level of consciousness is the animals. Animals not only they grow, but animals also have locomotion, which the plants do not have. So that's why in the manifested consciousness, animals are the next level. And human being is the highest because it moves around. Therefore, for us to sustain, we go for the plants the least, and then we go to the animals. So this is the principle that for us to sustain, that we need to go to the plants. That's why easy food. Another thing is that the plants level, the food is in the form of a simple bond, cell bond structure. Whereas the moment you go to the animals, it is complex cell structure. When it is a simple cell structure, it easily releases the energy to you. You sustain. Whereas it's the animal, complex cell structure, therefore that it takes more time. In fact, a simple thing is that you look at your pressure cooker. When you are cooking something vegetarian, it's 20 minutes, whereas when you cook something non-vegetarian, it takes about 40 minutes. That means to digest the food. In the pressure cooker, it takes twice the time. If in the pressure cooker, it takes twice time, the same thing will happen in my stomach also. Why should I necessarily spend something to release the energy? That's why the least effort is there by taking the vegetarian food. And I take the non-vegetarian only when the vegetarian is not available. And for years together, this culture, thousands of years, large number of percentage lived on the vegetarian food, we sustained. We didn't have to go for non-vegetarian. That shows that various other benefits are also there because of vegetarian. Another thing is vegetarian food is something which is evolved. The caveman used to eat the non-vegetarian or the raw meat, whereas the caveman developed agrarian revolution and then tilling the land. After that only all these pulses, everything has grown up. So therefore, you cannot get these pulses in the forest just like that. Fruits you can get it, roots you can get it. But this is what is the way that a revolution has development is the one which has given the vegetarian food. So therefore, a simple wisdom is to see that how we can become vegetarian. Simplistic way, so that I can sustain it. But there also, it should be something for me to nourish. Though it is vegetarian food, the amount of quantity that you take, is so much that it's beyond your nourishing. Don't do that. Take as much as that nourishment it provides. Not only the nourishment in the form of quantity and the quality, but also the frequency. How many times you eat? Because every time you eat, you are giving stomach an exercise, digest the whole process. You don't have to do it. That's why earlier the rishis used to say that only one time food is good enough. Even now also there are people who follow that. More time for meditating. But then there are some people who say, all right, 2 times have food. That's what is the normal thing. That Indian system used to have before this Western culture has come. Then what happened is that, before you take food, before that you break the fast, therefore breakfast, and then there's the food, 2 times food. So these are all the various things which has come. The quality, quantity, frequency. And another very important thing is that food is something through which that you get the consciousness supported life. Therefore, it is said that not only the food that you take, quality, quantity, and the frequency, very important thing is what is the mood in which that you take. It should not be destroyed. So that's the way we need to go for that. I'm in the class. I'll call you later. So therefore, basically, have a pleasant mood, have a pleasant thing in front of you, so that you are in a process of nourishing, because nourishment has to come from the mind. So you should be able to accept that. These days, very easily that people keep the video game in front of the children and feed them. The children do not know what they eat. Where is the question of nourishing and all those things? Because if you see, watch it, then you see that how much is nourishing. Or another thing is that the parents find the children only at the dining table. Otherwise, you can't catch them. They're playing all the time. When they catch them, they take out all kinds of questions on them. They get angry, they throw the food. You see that when your mood is not all right, you cannot take the food, digest the food. The system does not work because you are not an independent person. You are a complex person. So that means mind, body, all those things have to be there together. I remember very well when we were growing up, my father used to sit for food, and my mother and his mother used to be there by side serving him. And nobody, children were allowed to come there because, we would create all kinds of chaos. He doesn't want any chaos to happen. He used to love us. But then at the time of food, he used to have that his freedom. Anyway, these are the things which are there to show that how you nourish is something which is very important. And this is all about the food that we talk about today, but it is not more than the food. All the senses are there. That means what you hear should be nourishing. We hear all kinds of gossip, which has absolutely no nourishing value at all. Go for nourishing. Otherwise, don't go for that what you don't want to hear. In fact, I was very, very happy. I mean, it was such a wonderful lesson. One of our Swamijis was there when we were all young students. We used to meet with Swamiji. And one day we were talking some jokes and all those things, and particularly jokes of the yogis and sannyasins, what kind of things that they do. Something like that going on, we were laughing. And then Swamiji came and said, "Arey bhai, you are talking something which is humorous. Why don't you share with me?" So that we also enjoy. Immediately, I realized that it was not actually jokes. It was at the cost of somebody's, some sannyasin, something like that. It was there like that. I replied to Swamiji, it's not of a good taste. When I said it's not of a good taste, immediately Swamiji's reply was, if it's not of a good taste, then don't have to tell me. And you have a freedom. If it's not of a good taste, you don't have to listen to it. Normally, what happens if it's not a good taste, we say, why do you talk? Why you are doing this? You get angry, you get upset. I realized that's for me, if it is not nourishing, I don't take it. Whatever may be happening outside, if it is not, however great it may be happening, I do not have to take it. I do not have to break my head. So what you hear, if it is nourishing, you take it. Otherwise, don't take it. Now, once we know that, we will also give something what is nourishing. If it is not nourishing, We don't give it to the others. If just because that it is something which is extraordinary degree of knowledge, I don't want to give that knowledge to anybody and everybody if that person is not fit for that. Yogyata is there, then only that we give. Once I keep telling this example in Los Angeles, when I went there, a friend of mine said, "Oh, Raghuramji, you are here. So nice that you are here. Wonderful. Being far away from India, we get to learn about Vedantic knowledge." Recently, somebody came and gave series of talks on Isa Upanishad. Wonderful talks were there. Now you have come after about 15 days of talks that now you have come that you are giving talks and all that. We are really blessed. I'm also interested in Isa Upanishad. I asked, what is that? Give me a couple of points which are so wonderful about Ishavasya Upanishad. Let me know. She replied, Raghuramji, what to tell you? Ishavasya Upanishad, such a tough subject. Everything went above my head, but it was nourishing. It was wonderful. If it went above your head, where is the question of wonderful? So therefore, wonderful, it has to enter into your not only head, it should enter into your heart. It really becomes like your game changer. It becomes like a opinion creator within you. That's why I always say that anything that you see, it should create a opinion within you. It should create form an important part of you. This is what is nourishing. So what you hear should be nourishing means it should really bring about a change in you. So that means you listen very carefully. So what you hear is something. What you see is also something. Don't go for seeing something. Know fully well that it is not something which is nourishing. Don't go for that. Choice is yours. You are the master of it. So therefore, and today particularly, you see so much of information is there around the world. Half of the information is not useful for us, but people carry. Like one of the very important example, the other day somebody was asking me about is this IPL tournaments. What are the scores people have done, and what are the standings that are there? Fine, good for some people, but if it is a burden on you, it's not that you nourish. Don't take it. Don't unnecessarily go for that. It's not a question of ego that I know it, he doesn't know it. None of those things. We go by a lot of things by ego. Nourishing is what is very important. Not only these senses, 5 senses that you do, even the 5 motor coordinates, motor senses, karmendriyas, also something which should be nourishing. The very important aspect of it. I walk to see that I nourish. I move my joints to see that I nourish. Nourishing is that I make use of these joints to see that joints are useful. Earlier, we used to have that lifestyle which was like that. Where people used to walk for miles together. They used to have such strong muscles, such strong legs, joints. Sit down and get up 100 times, they used to do it every day. Joints were so clear. So many things they used to do with the physical hand. Like, for example, turning the atta, making the roti. It used to be such a hard job. The stone platens were used to be there, and then they put this game in that and then rotate it. What a wonderful thing it was. It used to make the wrist very strong, hands very strong. Morning and evening, women used to do that. And it was a great fun also. Added to that, it was a nice way that you spend your time. All those things we gave it up for the machines today. Machines will make atta. Not only atta, machine will make even roti also, and then you get the roti. Tomorrow somebody else will come. A machine which even chews the roti and gives it to you. You don't even want to chew it. We have given up doing this physical activity, what is supposed to be done. As a result of it, today we become a victim. Such a way that just a small little mouse is given to your hand. You develop what is called as carpal tunnel syndrome. Big name. Earlier they used to do the stone grinder. Your wrist used to be so strong. Today we don't have that. It's all because that we have not done a nourishing activity at the physical level, at the body level. It does not mean that you exceed it. You have to go. There are so many sciences today developed. What is useful for you, how much you have to do it, how many times you have to do it. All these things are there. Somehow the science has developed so much these days that everybody is looking after science. I asked the other fellow, others day somebody, go for a walk every day for about a mile. He said, are there papers published? Science has made all these things mess up your papers published. In fact, Harvard people, their paper published that on this, what is called as the, that we used to do during the Ganesh Puja, that Utak Baitak and all those things that they do. They offer that way the Ganesha. Every house that you go and 21 times that you do Utak Baitak and all those things that you do. It's such a fun. For children, it is such great fun. And you know what? When we were all children, it used to like that. Particularly Ganesh Puja, you do not ask anybody's permission. Just go to their house, knock on the door, ask only one question, is Ganesha at home? Because in some houses they don't have Ganesh. So yes, Ganesha is there. Then you barge inside and then do 21 times this Utak Baitak and then come out. That's what you offer. Don't ask for prasad or anything. They give fine otherwise. But the joy is in doing that. Imagine that one day you are supposed to go to about 108 houses and doing this 21 times this. 2000 times you do that. What a wonderful exercise for the children to do it. Such a wonderful exercise which was there throughout. Slowly we have given up. Today, as a result of it, what happened? The whole brain is connected with these particular, uh, electrodes and all those things, and somebody is made to do this Ganesh Utsav, puja, sitting and Baitak and all that. And they made research paper out of it, big paper published, and then headlines in India people have given. And what is that? They gave a very fancy name to that. They call it as cerebral exercise. And by doing that, your memory will increase, your blood circulation will increase. I don't know why they have to do all that. So therefore, basically what happened today, people say that do the Utak Baitak because basically there's a paper published by Harvard. And our grandfather, grandmother, they were knowing. They asked us to do it. They never sent that paper reference. Unfortunately, this is what happened with all the exercises that we do it. And people take advantages also like that. That Chakki people used to do such a wonderful exercise for the limbs. Today we don't have that. As a result of it, these days, people like Ramdev Baba also organizes the huge Mela yoga. Everybody is there, makes them to hold the hands together, rotate, and then people go do that. And he names it Chakki Yoga. I think, when Patanjali knows about it, he will commit suicide or he will laugh. That's what is the idea. Why is it? Because we have created that kind of distance between what we do, what we need to do it. What is useful for us, nourishing for us. Not only these 14 limbs, but even your prana, pancha prana, is for the sake of nourishing. You do the exercises, you do the activities to see that all these prana activities are taken care of properly. Which is again in the form of physical exercise, you do it, but which will give support to that prana that you do it. Do the exercises in such a way that all the three different levels of breathing, all these three different lobes, they function in the breathing exercise. It's such a simple idea that we had. A balloon that you take it, you blow the balloon. If you just blow the balloon, whichever is supposed to be the weak portion of the balloon, that only blows. Rest of the things in the balloon, they do not blow. So that's why they do what? They hold the balloon and then extend it. And when they blow it, they see that the blow reaches all the parts of balloon so that the whole balloon gets elongated and it gets the nourishment, it gets the energy from everything. Simple thing. Same way that you have three muscles sets that you have upper, middle, and lower lobes. And then give exercise for all these muscles. Running is there, walking is there, some yoga exercises are there to give all these things, which are there necessary for us. When we don't do that, particularly today's life is such a way, sedentary life, we don't move out of the chair. As a result of it, what happened is that your stomach muscles do not function at all. There is no abdominal breathing goes on. It's very difficult for people who are sophisticated to make them to do abdominal breathing. Somehow there is some concept is also there about that, saying that women should not be abdominal breathing. Somehow, I don't know why it is like that. But all these things contributed to the idea that people stopped doing the abdominal breathing. I went to Boston one time and then I asked them to do this Vibhaga Pranayama, abdominal breathing. I said, inhale, tummy should come out. Tummy was not coming out, it was going in. Yeah, it only goes to the chest. I said, no, tummy should come out. But there's no way that you can hold the tummy and pull it. They said, how does it happen? In your case, it happens, but we can't do that. How can it happen? Then I found out a small little yogi trick by which that you can do it. Ask them to lie down and then put a simple weight on that, on the tummy. And I found out this easiest way to put the weight is that, Bhagavad Gita, as it is, every yoga center has Bhagavad Gita, collecting the dust. I put that Bhagavad Gita book on their tummy and said, come on, push. By inhaling, push the book out. So that 2-3 times they tried, and afterwards, they're able to do that. Because the book can come up by inhaling. See, abdominal muscles, they're very happy. Because the beautiful idea that let's go. So 2 years later, I came back to the same yoga center. I found out that in yoga center that they have a half a pound sand bags. I said, what are these bags? These are abdominal breathing bags. What do you mean by that? You lie down and put this breathing bag on your tummy and then lift it up. How unfortunate that it is. Stula bhugo, at the prana level, pancha prana that is there, is to see that you exercise that prana properly functions. Don't necessarily abuse them. So many things that are said we can do about that prana, the way that you can develop all these things. Not only this, pancha karmendriyas, pancha jnanendriya, pancha, even the intellect, even the 4 antarindriyas, your memory, your intellect, your analysis, the way that you use your intellect, tarka, is for the sake of nourishment. If it is not nourishment, don't use tarka. We use the intellect, argument to see that, prove my point. What is your point and my point? Actually, knowledge grows with the help of intellect. Intellect is for the sake of knowledge. It's not your intellect or my intellect. Look at the way that somebody somewhere has given an intellectual idea about something. And today we use it. We don't even remember who gave that Archimedes principle, who gave this law, who gave that law. Like that, we use the laws. All the geometrical laws are there, all the arithmetic laws. So all these things somebody has given, because basically that intellect works for the giving the knowledge, improving the knowledge. Don't use that intellect for sake of anything else. Intellect is a very sharp tool. So chitta, manas, buddhi, chitta, ahankara, out of which buddhi is something which is supposed to be intellect. Use the intellect if it is for the sake of nourishment, helps you, and not for the sake of that using the intellect. People use the intellect to put somebody down. That means you are more intellectual than the other. So that's how, don't use the intellect as a weapon. Particularly these days that you go to the world outside, in the cyber world, you get all the information. Whether right or wrong, we don't know, but then information is there. With that knowledge, you try to corner the teacher with your intellect. Don't corner the teacher with that. Memory and intellect is something, don't use like a weapon. Intellect is something that really helps you to see that you grow. It becomes nourishing. If it is not nourishing, then leave that intellect. Don't worry about it. There are so many things that are there. You can analyze, you can understand, you can do that. But then you don't have to do it. Many times, people argue for the sake of argument. And if they feel miserable because it is not that you failed, that your argument failed. Your logic is not useful. Somebody else's knowledge, logic is there, that is useful. Fine, take it and then go ahead. Knowledge grows. Great people are great who have that kind of humility that they say that their knowledge, their idea that is there, it is obsolete and the new idea is something which is better. They take it and forward. They appreciate that. They're the great people. But people are there who continue to pursue their argument, not their knowledge, argument. And finally, when they get defeated, they say that You see, today you have more number of arguments, that's why you defeated me. But tomorrow I'll give you 10 more arguments so that I will win it. It's not a competition, it is something that you grow. So therefore, essentially, that the whole of intellect is used for the sake of growth of the knowledge, rather than it becomes like a tool for you, rather than making it as a point of logic for you, point argument for you. Similarly, like that, your memory. Keep in memory something which is useful. What is useless, don't use it in memory. All the garbage, don't fix it in your memory. Many times what happens, memory, if you are not careful, you are not aware, then the memory is filled with all negative things. You tell something about some nice thing about somebody, saying that, this fellow is a great, such a wonderful music that he sings. Immediately people tell me that, no, he's also a drunkard. I'm talking about music. I'm not talking about the drink. He may be something different, but that you keep it in your mind. But then you don't think of what is there positive. Anything that is there in the world outside, take it in the positive way. That's why gross world, and you are the person who takes it, take it in a positive way. That's how what is nourishing for you, you take it. So all these senses, memory, chitta, buddhi, ahankara, and these five pancha pranas, pancha karmendriya, jnanendriyas, are the sake of for your nourishment. In fact, if we understand this one particular sutra of Mandukya Upanishad, Sthula Bhuku, Vaishvanaraha, then you see that you don't really have to do anything else. Life is completely changed. Life is a different value. This itself is something which is an extraordinary, wonderful message Mandukya Upanishad gives us about the world outside. So therefore, Mandukya Upanishad, by this saying that world, Upanishad do not deny the world. When people say that Maya, Mathya, this, that, Upanishad doesn't exist. It's not like that. And they did not degrade also. A lot of times people in the name of Vedanta degrade the, appears to be degrading the material world outside. They did not deny the material world. They did not degrade the material world. In fact, somewhere it is said that, that what is there outside, skin is there, but otherwise under the skin, if you look at, it's all nothing but mamsa, majja, etc., etc. These are the seven dhatus, sapta dhatu. These are the seven dhatus. You have mamsa, you have majja, you have this. That means you have fat and, blood and veins and this and that. All these things, these are supposed to be. That's you are. It's a reality. There is nothing to feel bad about it. Everybody has it. Everything is like that. Skin is there outside. Only thing is recognize all those things. Don't look at your skin outside, but look at all these things that are inside. See that you're nourishing at all these different levels that are there has to happen. So, Saptangaha, Ekonavimshati Mukhaha, Sthula Bhuku, Vaishwanaraha. This is Pradhama Padaha, that the first responsibility, first level that we have, that's what is supposed to be the Jagrata Sthana, wakeful state. So this itself is good enough to see that mankind is taken care of, man was taken care of. In fact, when I go back to the way that our people have designed the food system, everything in our culture, Sanatan Dharma, is to cater to this kind of a thing. There are a lot of things that are there. I don't want to get into that. I'm giving that details in my Sanatan Dharma talks about how our people have planned all those things. This is what the wakeful state, wakeful experience. But you so far, he has not done. One thing that he told is everything is about the Bahish Prajna, and Shankaracharya makes it very clear. Bahish Prajna is outside you. You are somebody behind it. So therefore, this is the first set of all our experiences that we can categorize them. And that's what is basically the wakeful state experience, Jagrata Sthana experience. So let's next time go to the next level, which is much more deeper, much more particular about that. Gross world is easier, simpler, because that's we can see that. But subtle world is something which is much more difficult. We'll see that. We'll stop it here at this level. So stop. Any questions that are there about the wakeful will? Next time we'll take up with that and then proceed from there. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Thank you, Raghuramji.
Thank you. So,
Any doubts? Anybody?
Thank you,
Raghuramji, do you have
Raghuramji.
time?
yeah,
Raghuramji, I have a question if you have time.
sure.
You said that